we had left 881. We had moved around a couple of times to different hills, but our main hill that we were to man was 881 South. So they had an operation that was going. So every time there was an operation going, there would be one platoon or something would come in and man the hill while the other unit was on an operation. So we were on the 30th. They dropped us. We came down onto Highway 9, and they dropped us off on Highway 9, and we we set up a patrol and a sweep with I believe it was Alpha Company was the other company with us, and so it was a two-company size operation, and we made a sweep that day, heading towards heading away from Quezon,
Mm.
and so then we dug in for the night, and we were going to go to a hill. I don't know if it was. I really do not know if it was Hill 689, but 689 was in that general direction. But there was a company, was Echo Company, was they were getting in firefights with the NVA. They had them surrounded, and they were pummeling them. So about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, it was still dark. All hell broke loose up on that hill, and you could see the tracers going back and forth in the explosions, and everything. So we saddled up, and we were heading in that direction. And my squad, we were tail end Charlie, and we were, I think Alpha Company, I believe, was to our right, and we were on the left, and I was on the far left. We were in a V formation, and I was in the far left tail end Charlie with my squad, and all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. There was probably maybe a couple of thousand NVA had set up an ambush. They basically suckered us in, and we kind of knew, we knew that morning we were pulling out that we were going to get into some shit. We knew it, down in the ranks. So we got once they got us pinned down. They had a couple of platoons pinned down. I got a call from my platoon commander that there was a machine gun unit that got separated from the rest of us, and they were close by where we were at, and wanted me to send a couple of fire teams and myself over and bring them back in, because they were basically lost. They were cut off. So we moved up through this, what I call a dry wash, and there was wash out underneath it. It's almost like a little cave that went back in, maybe 5 or 6 feet. And I left my radio operator there with our platoon sergeant, staff sergeant, and took my 2 fire teams, because that's all I had at that time. We were very undermanned in strength. And we had a couple of new guys, and so we went up, and I could hear a machine gun, and I didn't know if it was ours or them. I couldn't really tell the difference. And I had one fire team up above me on my right, and I had my other fire team right down below me on my left. And I yelled out, what I can't remember their designation exactly what it was, but I yelled out for them. Well, it turned out that was the NVA position, and they started firing back at us and throwing Chi-Coms at us. And so my point man, who was probably the best point man in all of Vietnam, he would see the Chi-Coms coming and call them out, and then we would throw back. So about that time, probably we were about into this fight for about maybe, I don't know, it just went by so fast, probably 5 or 10 minutes. And the machine gun unit had heard what was going on, and they came around and came up behind us. So then, it was basically a successful mission. So we started pulling back, and as we pulled back, they threw a couple more Chi-Coms. Got one of my guys in the stomach. he was right behind me, so it landed in between me and him. But Chi-Coms actually blow in one direction, and they're more of a concussion grenade. They're meant to wound you so that they can, they have to cart you off. Well, got him in the abdomen. So we went back and we got him, and me and another Marine got him. And as we're bringing him down, another Chi-Com hit the other Marine in the foot and blew. And it didn't blow his foot off, but it pretty much blew it off. It was just hanging there. So I turned around, I got them back down. I turned around, laid down some ground fire, threw a bunch of about 3 or 4 more grenades up in there, and then everything went quiet. So I figured we probably knocked it out, I guess. And so then we pulled back down, and most of the fighting was pretty much over by that time because it all was happening in front of us. So the lieutenant called me up. I told him where I was at. He said, "Well, come up the hill." And we got up on the crest of the hill, it was all elephant grass up in there. I mean, it was real high elephant grass, and there was 5 dead Marines laying there, face up on the ground, and they had a prisoner. And the way the Vietnamese spoke, it was almost like they laughed. They had that high pitch tone in their voice, and they spoke real quick, in their lingo, and we kind of thought he was laughing, so it really pissed us off. And one of the guys wanted to pull his 45 out and wanted to blow him away, and we had to stop that, and they carted him off. So then we regrouped. We pulled back down off of the hill, probably about a quarter of a mile or more, almost back to where we had started out early that morning, and called in airstrikes. We were supposed to go up and relieve Echo Company up on the top of whatever hill that was. And I really don't remember if it was 689 or if it was just where they had spent a couple of nights. I really don't know. So
this ambush hit your Marines when you were on your way to Echo Company.
yes.
So you never connected with Echo Company then?
Not that day.
Okay.
Not that day. We actually pulled back, brought in the airstrikes, napalm and clusters and daisy chains, and I mean they just hit the hell out of the hill. And then we had to go back up. We still had about 3 or 4 Marines that we left up on the hill, so we went back up and got them and brought them down, and loaded everybody up on a couple of tanks, and tanks took off with the choppers took the wounded, and the tanks took the dead Marine. We lost 13 Marines that day and 32 wounded. That was probably the biggest firefight I was in. It was that long and that many that we lost it in that short a period of time. It probably lasted no more than a total of 4 or 5 hours from start to finish.
How long was it before you realized that had happened on Memorial Day?
That day, because um, we went back to where we started from, where we had dug in the night before, and we encamped again. And one of the guys in my squad had a transistor radio, and we listened to the Indy 500 on Armed Forces Radio.
The rats, the rock apes, the mosquitoes, the mud, the filth, all of these things that would just be horrible. And then now on top of that, of course, you throw the NVA and everything that they have. And the question was, how do you hold it together? How do you not, just lose it? And your answer was, well, you're in it together with your fellow Marines. And so there's that strong bond. And then you have a day like this where you lose a lot of your fellow Marines, and you have to carry on. The next day comes and you've got to keep going. So I guess I'm wondering, how do you do that? You've got this incredibly strong bond with your fellow Marines, but just the nature of the situation you're in, if they're lost in battle, I don't know, do you just kind of have to let go and move on and think about it later? I mean, how does that go?
Uh, I can't really tell you what kind of mindset it was, but it was like it was just another day at the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, you just because we knew we weren't leaving there anytime soon. We all had our time to do, and we all, and we were counting down days, and but we all knew that we were there, and we were there together, and that was the crux of it. And the day after that battle, we spent a day on Hill 558 down in the perimeter. They took us down to the river so we could take a bath, and we took a bath down in the river, and then came back up. And then the next morning, we went back down where we were during the firefight, but came in from a different direction. And we had a different company with us. We had Charlie Company with us then, and they were the front company, and they moved up and we were able to drive the NVA off of the hill that had Echo Company surrounded. Lost a couple of more Marines that day, and a couple more wounded, but it wasn't quite as bad as Memorial Day. On Memorial Day, there was a Marine that his name was Gatewood, and we thought somebody uh, saw him get wounded, and as they were sweeping, and for some reason they thought that he had either sent off on the chopper, you know, because she was wounded. And it was about 2 or 3 days later that they figured that no, he was MIA.
Wow.
They had no idea. It took them 2 or 3 days to figure out that he wasn't choppered out. There was no record of him, and that took several days to get back up to the headquarters.
Was Gatewood ever found, do you know?
No, it was
Wow.
never found.
What does that Silver Star mean to you?
Um, Means a lot more to me now than it did at that time.
Hmm.
Um, it gives me a certain amount of pride, and to be able to look back and say, this is what I did, but I don't brag about it. I don't. I mean, people know, but I don't bring it up. And one thing that I go to a lot of. I belong to the Marine Corps League, so I go to a lot of Marine Corps League functions and stuff in the state. And there's always somebody that introduces me as, you got to meet Tom. He's a Silver Star winner. I'm going, no, I didn't win it. No,
Hmm.
I didn't. I did not win it. No. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, and I really don't think that what I did on that particular day was anything different than what I did the rest of the time I was over there. I mean, you just do things, and it's what we were trained for.
What does Memorial Day mean to you now?
Um, Memorial Day is a day that I hold in remembrance and in sorrow.